How's it going, everyone? Austin Honecker here. I just wanted to come on here for a while and give them a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite from 2 nights ago, which was May 12th, 2021. I gotta say, it was awesome from start to finish. For the matches, match 1, it was Jon Moxley versus Yuji Nagata for the IWGP United States title. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Jon Moxley went over and retained the IWGP United States title with the paradigm shift. Well, after the match, as Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston were celebrating, Jon Moxley had Ren Narita come in and check on Yuji Nagata, so Ren Narita came in and checked on Yuji Nagata, and Jon Moxley put down his IWGP United States title, and Jon Moxley and Yuji Nagata were showing respect to each other and everything, which that was cool. Match 2, it was the Young Bucks, which are Matt and Nick Jackson, versus SCU, which are Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, for the AEW Tag Team titles. That was a great match. But the ending to it, the Young Bucks went over and retained the AEW Tag Team titles because Nick Jackson pinned Christopher Daniels with the BTE trigger from Matt and Nick Jackson. Well, after the match, Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston went into the Elite, which are Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson, and Don Callis' locker room, and Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston destroyed the locker room and everything, which that was cool. But after that, SCU embraced a hug since this is their final time as a tag team, which that was awesome as well. Match 3, it was Pac versus Orange Cassidy to determine the number 1 contender to face Kenny Omega for the AEW title at Double or Nothing 3. That was a great match, but the ending to it, nobody went over because Pac and Orange Cassidy fought to a double countout. And that was due to Orange Cassidy getting knocked out and Don Callis coming out to distract Aubrey Edwards, and Kenny Omega attacked Pac from behind with the AEW title, knocking him out. So referee Aubrey Edwards counted to 10, and so both Pac and Orange Cassidy fought to a double countout. Well, after the match, Don Callis got on the microphone and was talking shit, saying that Kenny Omega didn't have an opponent for Double or Nothing 3, and he was needing he was telling Kenny Omega that he has the night off, and Kenny Omega was gloating on about it, talking about going on a road trip and everything. And then Tony Schiavone came along and informed Kenny Omega and Don Callis that he was informed that it'll be Kenny Omega versus Pac versus Orange Cassidy for the AEW in a 3-way match for the AEW title at Double or Nothing 3. Well, after Tony Schiavone made that announcement, Kenny Omega and Don Callis freaked out and everything, which that was cool. Match 4, it was Thunder Rosa versus Jasmine Allure. That was a quick match, but the ending to it, Thunder Rosa went over with the Thunder Driver. And match 5, which was the main event, it was Miro versus Darby Allin for the AEW TNT title. That was a great match, but the ending to it, Miro went over and won the AEW TNT title with the game over. Well, after the match, Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page came along to attack Sting, and Sting fought him off, but Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page ended up getting offense in because the numbers game was too much, and then the Dark Order, which are Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, John Silver, Alex Reynolds, 5'10", and Colt Cabana came out and ran Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page off, and then as Miro was in the ring, Lance Archer and Jake the Snake Roberts came out, and Jake the Snake Roberts was holding Lance Archer back, and Lance Archer was staring Miro down, and Miro was staring Lance Archer back and everything, which that was cool. But besides the matches, Jon Moxley and Yuji Nagata were shown backstage preparing for their match for the IWGP United States title, preparing for it and everything, which that was cool. Alex Marvez interviewed the Inner Circle, which are Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, and Ortiz. And Alex Marvez was pretty much asking the Inner Circle what was next for him and everything. And, excuse me, Ortiz was talking about Chris Jericho being out because of that, because MJF shoving him off the cage last week, and talking about Santana being in jail, being in prison, because MJF ratted him out for stabbing him with a fork. And Ortiz was also talking about how they were going to get back at the Pinnacle and everything. And Jake Hager got on the microphone and said that, talking about how they said that they would have to kill them to make them surrender and everything, and then Jake Hager was also talking about how they wanted to fight the Pinnacle again. The Pinnacle, which are MJF, Wardlow, Shawn Spears, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler again, and everything. And Sammy Guevara was also talking about the same thing, but was saying that if the Pinnacle don't give them what they want, it'll be, instead of the coronation of the Pinnacle, it'll be the funeral of the Pinnacle and everything, which that was cool. Cody Rhodes came out and cut a promo, and Cody Rhodes was talking about how America was great, and how he loved America, and then was talking shit about Anthony Ogogo, and was talking about how Anthony Ogogo has been disrespecting the United States, and how he's working for the United States and everything, and Cody Rhodes was also talking about how at Double or Nothing 3, it was going to be Anthony Ogogo versus Cody Rhodes, but Cody Rhodes was saying that, but it won't be the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, it'll be the American Dream Cody Rhodes and everything, which that was cool. AEW aired the video package of the promo that SCU, which are Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, were talking about the Young Bucks, which are Matt and Nick Jackson and everything. That was cool. Dasha Gonzalez interviewed Christian Cage, and Dasha Gonzalez was pretty much asking Christian Cage about his issues with Team Taz, which are Taz, Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Hook. And Christian Cage was going on about how Taz critiqued his moveset and everything, and talked about how Tony Khan gave him an open contract and everything, and also talked about how he wanted to fight Team Taz and everything. But Christian Cage was also saying that at Double or Nothing 3, he will be a part of the 21-man Casino Battle Royal. And he was talking about how he was going to win it all and everything. And then Matt Sydal appeared, and Matt Sydal was saying that he was going to be in the 21-man Casino Battle Royal at Double or Nothing 3 as well. And Matt Sydal even informed Christian Cage that he don't have to worry about Team Taz next week because he'll be the one to face Christian Cage next week on AEW Dynamite and everything, which that was cool. The Elite, which are Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, Doc Gallows, and Carl Anderson, were backstage in their dressing room, and Carl Anderson was going off about their dressing room being destroyed and everything, and Doc Gallows confirmed that it was Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston that destroyed their dressing room, and Matt and Nick Jackson was talking shit as well, and about Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston about what they did, and then Matt Jackson went to talking shit and was talking about how next week, how they're fighting, how him and Nick Jackson are fighting champions, and they made a challenge to the Varsity Blondes, which are Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, next week for the AEW Tag Team titles. And then Matt Jackson made a challenge to Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston at Double or Nothing 3 and everything, which that was cool. Let me see. Alex Marvez interviewed Hangman Page and the Dark Order, which are Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, John Silver, Alex Reynolds, 5'10", and Colt Cabana. And Alex Marvez was pretty much asking Hangman Page about him being dropped in the rankings and everything. And Hangman Page was talking about how it was bound to happen, but it took about 3.5 guys to get beat him, to get him to drop down the rankings. And the Dark Order were trying to hype Hangman Page up, and Hangman Page made a challenge too, was talking shit about Brian Cage, saying how he respected the business and everything, and talked about how Brian Cage probably wasn't satisfied with how he beat him and everything, and so Hangman Page made a challenge to Brian Cage at Double or Nothing 3, which that was cool. The Pinnacle, which are MJF, Wardlow, Shawn Spears, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, and Tully Blanchard came out for the coronation, and MJF got on the microphone and was talking about how he said he was going to take Chris Jericho's spot and everything, and talked about how he already took Chris Jericho's spot, and that he's now the demo god, and he is now the king of AEW, and was talking about how the Inner Circle wanted a rematch against the Pinnacle, but MJF was poking fun, saying that they were down 2 men because Santana is in prison because stabbing him in the forehead with a fork like a coward, and Chris Jericho tripping and falling and breaking his arm and everything. And MJF told the answer that he did not accept the Inner Circle's challenge. And Tully Blanchard got on the microphone and was putting over the Pinnacle, and Tully Blanchard gave the Pinnacle, all the members of the Pinnacle, Rolex watches and everything, and then apparently someone was honking the horn, and MJF was getting pissed off, wondering who was honking the horn. So the Inner Circle, which are Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, and Ortiz, appeared in a truck of a little bit of the bubbly and everything, and and MJF was talking shit towards the Inner Circle, saying that the Pinnacle were done with the Inner Circle and everything. And then Chris Jericho popped up and started insulting MJF, and then Chris Jericho asked MJF, "Do you accept our challenge?" MJF said no. Chris Jericho said, "Your answer is what?" MJF said, "I said N-O, that means no." And then Chris Jericho signaled Sammy Guevara to spray down the Pinnacle with the wine hose. So Sammy Guevara took the hose and sprayed the Pinnacle in the ring, and they all went and fell down and everything in the ring, and were pretty much getting sprayed and everything. And MJF got on the microphone and was saying that he was telling the Inner Circle, he said, "You all want a match? Well, May 30th at Double or Nothing 3, we have the match you all lost last year at Double or Nothing 2. The Pinnacle versus the Inner Circle in a Stadium Stampede match. And if you lose, and if the Inner Circle loses, then and if the Pinnacle wins, then when the Pinnacle wins, the Inner Circle will have to break up forever. So take it or leave it." So the Pinnacle ended up leaving, and then Chris Jericho was pondering the answer, and the Inner Circle and the Pinnacle were staring each other down and everything, which that was cool. Jim Ross interviewed Britt Baker, and Jim Ross was talking to Britt Baker about her rivalry with Hikaru Shida and her match against Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's title at Double or Nothing 3 and everything. And Britt Baker was going on saying that she was going to beat Hikaru Shida and win the AEW Women's title at Double or Nothing 3 and everything. And Britt Baker is pretty much putting herself over like the cocky heel she is and everything, which that was cool. Tony Schiavone interviewed Jade Cargill, and Tony Schiavone, well, that interview that Jim Ross interviewed Britt Baker, that was cool. But Tony Schiavone interviewed Jade Cargill, and Tony Schiavone was pretty much asking Jade Cargill between Matt Hardy, Vicky Guerrero, and Mark Sterling, which one was going to be her boss and everything. And Jade Cargill was saying that nobody was her boss, that she was her own boss. And she was listening to the offers, but nobody was going to be her boss because she's her own boss and she's that bitch. Which that was cool. And Darby Allin cut a promo, and the interviewer was asking Darby Allin his condition going into the match against Miro for the AEW TNT title, and pretty much after his attack from Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, and Darby Allin was saying that he didn't have time to think about Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, and he said after he got thrown down the stairs, he went back to his home in Seattle. And so Darby Allin was back at his home in Seattle and was going through his house and saying, "I know it looks trashy, but I love this place." And Darby Allin was pretty much talking shit towards Miro and everything, which that was cool. Darby Allin was pretty much talking shit about Miro, saying that Miro wasn't going to beat him and everything, which that was cool. But besides all that, Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur done commentary throughout the whole show. They done awesome as usual. And Don Callis done guest commentary along with Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur during the match between the Young Bucks versus SCU for the AEW Tag Team titles. Don Callis done great on guest commentary. And the referees for the event were Rick Knox, Paul Turner, Bryce Remsburg, and Aubrey Edwards. Okay. Bryce Remsburg refereed the match between Jon Moxley versus Yuji Nagata for the IWGP United States title. Rick Knox refereed the match between the Young Bucks versus SCU for the AEW Tag Team titles. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Pac versus Orange Cassidy. Aubrey Edwards refereed the match between Thunder Rosa versus Jasmine Allure, and Paul Turner refereed the match between Miro versus Darby Allin for the AEW TNT title. All the referees done awesome as usual. Now, the match card that's been announced for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite next week, it's going to be the Young Bucks, which are Matt and Nick Jackson, versus the Varsity Blondes, which are Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison for the AEW Tag Team titles. Serena Deeb versus Red Velvet for the NWA Women's title. Christian Cage versus Matt Sydal, and Anthony Ogogo versus Austin Gunn. Those are the matches that have been announced. That's the match card that's been announced for AEW Dynamite next week. Now, the match card for Double or Nothing 3 that's been announced so far, it's going to be Kenny Omega versus Pac versus Orange Cassidy for the AEW. The match card for Double or Nothing 3 that's been announced so far, it's going to be Kenny Omega versus Pac versus Orange Cassidy in a three-way match for the AEW title. Hikaru Shida versus Britt Baker for the AEW Women's title. A 21-man casino battle royal to determine the number one contender for the AEW title sometime down the road. Cody Rhodes versus Anthony Ogogo, and Hangman Page versus Brian Cage. So those are the matches that have been announced for Double or Nothing 3 so far. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a while and give them a review for All Elite Wrestling's AEW Dynamite from 2 nights ago, which was May 12th, 2021. Like I said, it was awesome from start to finish. And with that being said, my name is Austin Honecker, and I will catch your ass down the road.